Hello everyone, welcome to Thursday Tea Time Live. Thank you for joining me. It's the 1st of July already, oh my goodness, and it's time for Thursday Tea Time Live. So good morning, afternoon, evening. I know that lots of you join me from all over the world. So wherever you are in the world, thank you for spending your time with me. It's another Thursday Tea Time Live, and we're going to be chatting lots of history again today, and I will let you know some of the things I've got going on. I'm so sorry, I'm out of breath because I got to a minute 2 and realised I hadn't got my cup of tea. I have just managed to make a proper brew in 1 minute flat. I think that's probably my most impressive feat for today, other than doing a bit of gardening, which really isn't my thing, but I bought some plants, so they are now in the ground. Welcome, thank you for joining me. I'm streaming live on YouTube and Instagram, hence why my eye line changes in flits between them. But thank you also if you're joining me on the catch up later on the podcast or on IGTV or YouTube playback. So, let me just get my breath back from running up the stairs to get my cup of tea. I hope you've got one as well. That's my dog barking. So if you can give me a thumbs up, just let me know. Hi Rocket Tours. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I think you're fine on Instagram. I can see people can hear me. If you are watching on YouTube, and you can just pop a comment in the chat to say hi, that would be great. Welcome from Oslo. Would be with Kirsty? Welcome. And Oman. Oh, fantastic. Oh, we really are becoming very worldwide global on Thursday Tea Time Live. How absolutely fabulous. So yes, if you're watching me IGTV, please hit that love button as much as you like. Love button, that sounds really wrong. The heart that you can do. And if you're on YouTube, like I say, a thumbs up, a comment, or even a super chat or super sticker would be fabulous. Very much appreciated. Oh, right. This week. Okay, so let me start actually with, I can't let it go by without mentioning that today would have been Princess Diana's 60th birthday. It's the 1st of July, her birthday, and her sons William and Harry are apparently, I don't know if it's already happened, they're unveiling a statue of let me just turn my mouse off, of Diana outside Kensington Palace today. And that is where she was lived for quite a while, and that's where she was living at the time of her death. So that statue will go up. I'm not sure exactly whereabouts, so I'm keen to have a look at what's happening with that. Pete in Canada, it's far too hot for tea. He's getting something ready in the blender. Excellent. And Orlando from Brazil. Hi, welcome. Excellent. This is really, really exciting. Oh, that wasn't exciting. Sorry for YouTube. Let me get myself sorted back out. This is my problem with my balancing act of microphones and such like. Let me just sort that out. Sorry, everybody. That was a rather large bang. I think actually it was a bang followed by absolute silence on YouTube. So sorry about that, everyone. I am now back. Cool. So today would have been Diana's 60th birthday, and we're not too far off the anniversary of her death either. And I mean, I'm not one for sort of, remembering death dates. If you know what I mean, it always feels a bit morbid to me. But it was just before my 18th birthday that she died. So I remember it. I mean, I remember it really well. I think everyone remembers it really well. I don't know if you remember where you were when you heard the news of the car crash, and then obviously we started to get the news through that she hadn't survived it, and it was shocking. I think in my lifetime, so for me, by that point, I'd got to 18. I can't really remember anybody that had been so much part of our daily life. I suppose this was the beginning actually of the massive press coverage of people, celebrities, but anyone famous was in the news all the time, and Diana especially. So we knew, or we felt like we knew her, I think, because we knew so much that was going on in her life. And then to get the news that she'd had a car crash, and then obviously the sad news she hadn't survived it, was just a massive shock. The outpouring of grief here, and you probably remember the images of Kensington Palace where her statue will be revealed today. The flowers that were laid there are just phenomenal. It was like a sea of flowers, all very sad. But I'm looking forward to seeing her statue. I'm looking forward to seeing Harry and William together. For obvious reasons. We've grown up as a country. They're not that much younger than me, so I've sort of grown up seeing their siblingship, and obviously it's a bit strained at the moment. So it'd be nice to see them together anyway. So what else though? That's what I just wanted to pay tribute to Diana before I moved on. So what else has been going on? So we had a very interesting discussion on Clubhouse last night. I like to update you on what we've been doing on Clubhouse, not least because it's good topics to start the ball rolling today as well. By the way, if you've got anything, any questions, any comments that come up for you from what I talk about, please do let me know. I will keep an eye on the chat. I'll just warn you though, if I'm a little bit behind, it's because I, for some reason, see the comments about 30 seconds possibly after you've put them, so I'm not ignoring you. It's just that for some reason is the delay. Last Thursday, you may remember I told you that the following day, Friday, we were having a live discussion with Kate McCaffrey, and Kate is a curator at Hever Castle, and as part of her I think it's her master's degree, she did some research into one of Anne Boleyn's books of hours. That they have two at Hever Castle, and she did some research into the printed one. Now, if you don't know which one that is, if you have a look on my Instagram, a few posts ago, you will see I've put a picture of it, so you can see which one I'm talking about. And she spent an hour with us talking about her research, talking about what she'd found, what she'd discovered, how many new questions that has opened up, and so what sort of plans they've got, or she's got going forward for looking more into the book. I can't remember everything she told me. She told us, sorry, to be very frank with you. She's found out so much, but there were 4 inscriptions in this Books of Hours that have since been scrubbed. They've since been deleted, but obviously they're handwritten in ink, so really difficult to see with the naked eye. But she used a ultraviolet light to inspect this book. Now, why would that be of interest? Well, a Book of Hours, which is a religious book that a very personal item that someone would keep with them, and it would literally be the prayers for that day. So people used it also to note down other events, births, things like that. And Anne used hers, and we know she inscribed in hers. We know Margaret Beaufort had one and wrote down the birth date of Arthur. She wrote down the birthday of Henry, but on the wrong day, and had to change it, by the way, which is quite amusing. And this Books of Hours, this printed version of the Books of Hours that belonged to Anne Boleyn, which Kate McCaffrey looked at, had 4 extra inscriptions in them. And the inscriptions, like I say, they're personal because these are personal items, but it gives a clue as to the provenance of the book, where it came from and who it went to afterwards. Because if you remember, Anne Boleyn, if Henry had had his way completely, would have been scrubbed from the records. I mean, he couldn't do it completely. Obviously, there was a daughter involved. But I suppose if Elizabeth hadn't survived, there's a train of thought. If Elizabeth hadn't survived, would we know much about Anne? Or is it because Anne's daughter Elizabeth ends up on the throne that that Anne could not be successfully scrubbed? However, her personal items, you would think that none would be allowed to survive, but these books of hours were given to trusted people for safekeeping and then moved on and given on. Hence why these inscriptions from other people who've owned the book are so important and insightful as to who might have owned the book. Hello, Celia in Brazil. Welcome. Good morning. Just trying to work out where in the world you are. And so the whole conversation was so interesting. I wanted to know what language the inscriptions were, because of course people use Latin at certain times and moved on more onto English, and these inscriptions were in English. Welcome everyone who's joining. Nice to see you here. It's this Thursday Tea Time Live, so thank you for joining me, and thank you for joining me again if you are on the catch up as well. So Kate spoke to us about this book, about the inscription she's found in it, about every other question that then throws up, because there are gaps in knowing where the book was at particular times. How has it survived 500 years? You can imagine that something of a personal nature entrusted to somebody who knew the person who's died would survive for a time, because it's important still to the person living to remember, to honour some promise they've made to someone. As time goes on, that's a bit more difficult. The other thing to mention about books of hours was that where they were passed down, that was how this wasn't unusual that this book had been passed forward or passed on and then passed on again. And this was quite typical of a book of hours, and generally down a female line as well. Really fascinating. This printed version, as I say, and if you want to see which one I'm talking about, check out my Instagram, because there's a post just a couple of posts back with the book of hours that I'm talking about on there. It was, like I say, it was a printed version. I mean, not like printed like we know, but a printed version. So there were more copies around, and indeed, apparently, Catherine of Aragon also owned the same book, not the same copy, which I kind of got myself confused when Kate was speaking. I thought, gosh, that would be a link, wouldn't it? But no, the same, the same book, not the same copy of the same book. So that was really interesting. If you are on Clubhouse, please do come and join us when we're on. We do have standard set rooms, and we're adding to them all the time. The team is growing. So we've got the core, which is myself, Sarah Morris of the Tudor Travel Guide, Kat Marchant from Reading the Past on YouTube, and Catherine Brooks, who is the Tudor Tracker. And we've now been joined by Deb Royal, who comes in with myself and Sarah to do Travelling Tudor Britain on a Sunday. That's always at 4:00 in the afternoon on a Sunday. We have Phil Downing, who is he's Tudor Tours on Instagram, and he's house manager at a fantastic place called Harvington Hall, which is very close to me. Famous for having the is it the most priest hides in a Tudor, I presume a surviving Tudor building, because obviously if they've gone, we don't know how many they had. And he joins us for the History After Dark room, which I'll come back to in a short while. Gail Hume from British Sovereigns and Royals, she does a Thursday evening room, so today at 7:00, and in fact today she will indeed be talking about Diana, Princess of Wales. And we also have Heather Darcy, who we're going to speak to her on one of our core rooms as well soon. But she does, oh gosh, what's her room called? It's about reading documents, and she's in America. So any of you over that side, you'll be pleased to know there's a room that's a little bit more aligned to your time. I think it's something like 3 a.m. on a Saturday morning here, so a Friday evening. Heather Darcy does a room as well. So if you come onto Clubhouse, follow me at Philippa B, and then if you scroll right to the bottom of my profile, you will see the first two clubs on my profile are the History and Culture Club and the Tudor History Club, and those are the two clubs within which all of these rooms that I'm talking about operate. So we have some pure Tudor, and then we have some much wider history and culture rooms. The Travelling Tudor Britain room is always in the Tudor History Club, and that is, like I say, on a Sunday at 4 o'clock. And last Sunday, Sarah and Deb, I moderated because I hadn't been to the places that we were talking about, which were the Vine and Basing House. Basing House. Because what we're doing is we're doing our own little summer progress. So we are going on a little summer progress. We're coming out of London and we're going south, and then we're making our way up and round to... I don't think there's any sound on YouTube. Okay, thank you. Okay. We're making our way up and round to up on the southwest. So, right, apologies everyone on YouTube. I've just been told that my sound has only just come on. That's okay, I've only done 16 minutes. So let's do a quick recap. Hello, welcome everyone on YouTube. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being patient and waiting for me to actually say something. I have just been speaking about today would have been the 60th birthday of Diana, Princess of Wales, and her sons William and Harry are back together just for today, I think, to unveil a statue of her at her previous home, Kensington Palace in London. So I'm looking forward to seeing that statue and where it is, and seeing the boys together for a short while at least. And then I've been talking about what we've been doing on Clubhouse. So so Kate McCaffrey has been talking to us about Anne Boleyn's Book of Hours, and we've been travelling Tudor Britain to the Vine and Basing House. There's a very quick catch up. Now, the Vine and Basing House are down in the south. So this was our first stop on our summer progress. So this isn't actually following any particular monarch's summer progress, although a lot of the places that we go, probably all of them ish in the end, will be ones which monarchs used to go to during their summer progresses, which were ostensibly to go out into the country and see other people, I suppose, that, you know, their dominion, although they didn't generally go that far north. Anyway, but we're sticking around in the south for this particular one. And the Vine and Basing House, the Vine is the Vine, see, I haven't been to either of these places. I am going to be going, and I was a bit more interested actually now that Sarah and Deb have told us more about it. Both the Vine and Basing House were huge. They were apparently on the scale of a Hampton Court Palace. Basing House, though, I think it was that one, yes, burnt to the ground. So there's none of it left. There's foundations you can go and see. And the Vine, there's a house there, but what the Tudors would have recognised is much smaller, although what is there is really quite interesting. So the linen fold panelling is original. There are bosses of, I don't know if they're bosses or carvings of the badges of, you know, the important families of the day. So in the same room you've got that Henry would have visited with Anne Boleyn, you've still got Catherine of Aragon's pomegranate up on the wall, and you've still got Thomas Wolsey's arms. So this is a really interesting place to go. The second stop on our summer progress is going to be Winchester. So Deb, it's going to be just myself and Deb on Sunday, and we're talking about Winchester. Let me know if you've been to Winchester or if it's somewhere that you would like to go. It is, it's got the cathedral, and the cathedral at Winchester is where Mary I married Philip II of Spain. What an uneven match there. She thought she'd got to the point where she got her Prince Charming and she was about to have a family. And I do believe that's what she really wanted. Of course, it went horribly wrong. And Philip just was not as keen on the marriage as Mary anyway. And then Mary had her false pregnancies and just terrible time. But the cathedral, so we'll be virtually doing a virtual visit to the cathedral. Winchester Great Hall still exists, and that was the Great Hall of Winchester Palace. I think it was a palace, it wasn't castle. And this is where Arthur Tudor was born. It's also where the round table, the famous round table, is perched on the wall, hung up on the wall. And it's so this is the legend. This is the round table linked to the legend of King Arthur. Now, when the Tudors came to the throne under Henry VII, the need to show a ancient link was strong. Okay, it didn't really matter whether that was to legend or real figures, and the King Arthur, the Arthurian legend, was strong anyway. It wasn't like it was considered a legend actually. So this is the reason that Henry VII had his wife Elizabeth of York go to Winchester in order to give birth, and then called their son Arthur. This is all in order to give these strong indications, these links to strong monarchs or leaders of the past in the country. But yeah, so this round table is there. It was repainted in Henry VIII's time. Hence why, again, if you have a look on my Instagram, actually I shared a picture of this the other day. Hence why it is green and white, which are the colours of the Tudors. And you won't be able to tell from the photograph I took, from the photograph that I've shared. I don't think I managed to get a close-up, or I don't think I've posted that. But at the top is a figure, and supposedly, I suppose, I don't know if it's supposed to be Arthur, I presume it's supposed to be Arthur, but looking very much like Henry VIII. And it was repainted on the orders of Henry VIII before a visit from, I think it was Francis I. It was either Francis or Charles V. But anyway, so that's there. The Great Hall is practically the only bit of the palace that has survived. Right. So anyway, if you can join us for that, that would be great. That would be Sunday. So Sunday, 4:00 is a standard time for us. Tomorrow, so every Friday at 5:00, we have our history half hour. And our history half hours, I'll warn you now, if you do join us for them, don't be surprised if they become a history 3/4 of an hour, or indeed on Monday was a special day because Kate was with us, so that was an hour, but sometimes they are going a little bit longer because people are coming up and asking questions now and contributing, which is absolutely fabulous. By the way, though, if you want to come in, listen and not say anything, that is also absolutely fine. But tomorrow should be funny. So tomorrow we are discussing British quirks. So these things that us Brits do that are quite amusing to everybody else. We're going to try and think of them, but please do I mean, you might want to pop them in the comments now, but please come along and share yours as well. What do us Brits do? Because some of the cliches are absolutely true. Whatever is going on, whatever tragedy, whatever bad luck, awful event is happening, we will make a cup of tea. That is standard. It is absolutely standard. You go and tell a friend, I don't know, some bad news, or she comes and tells you some bad news, or he comes and says something, and it will be, I'll pop the kettle on. Definitely. Ali says they love it when the rooms go longer. Excellent, thank you, Ali. We'd love to discuss more Mary Queen of Scots. Oh, why Mary Queen of Scots never met Elizabeth. That would be a good topic for one. Of course, that's what we believe. There's no evidence that they ever met. Although, as I think it was Leslie Smith, reminds me, and I'll come on to talk about Leslie Smith a bit more in a moment, until a document turns up that tells us they did, we will continue to assume that they didn't, but it's not to say we know everything, of course. But yes, so tomorrow night, 5:00, British Quirk. So yeah, like we go and make a cup of tea. We say sorry if someone bumps into us. What else do we do? We do lots of odd things. I'm pretty sure. And Ali's saying, why did her son, Mary Queen of Scots, never rescue or write to her? Yes, and then of course though, when he became King of England, he moved her body from Peterborough Cathedral down to Westminster Abbey as well. So yeah, great suggestions, Ali. I think we would love to discuss those on Clubhouse. What else have we been discussing? Oh yeah, sorry, Mondays wasn't Kate's, that was last Friday's, wasn't it? I said that before. Monday's room, we talked about Henry VIII and Anne of Cleves, because 28th of June, Henry VIII's birthday. Also now a date, thanks to research by Heather Darcy, who I mentioned before, who's doing a room in our History and Culture Club. Also now, possibly, in Heather's mind, most likely, the date of Anne of Cleves' birth as well. So that was an interesting room, and we talked about Henry and Anne's relationship. We talked about what else did we talk about? Ali can help me out here. She was there. Whether or not birthdays were actually much of a celebration, because one of the thoughts we had was, if they had a joint birthday, would that not have come up a bit more? Would we not have sort of heard mention of joint celebrations? And that moved on to topics of, well, would Henry actually ever share his birthday with anybody? Well, it's all about me. Or did they celebrate birthdays that much? And this kind of thing. So it was a really, this is the thing with it's a bit like this with our Clubhouse topics. We do stick to a overall area of interest, but we can move around in that as well, and go and explore things that come up as a result. So that was really fun. Then I mentioned the History After Dark room. So last night, History After Dark is the room where we discuss things that aren't necessarily those topics that we discuss in polite conversation. So next week, for example, is this is not my title. Favourite murders. That's a bit of an oxymoron. Kat Marchant, who does Reading the Past, is really interested in true crime, and so we're going to be discussing murders next week. And last night we discussed the history of pornography. And I discovered, so in doing some research ready for the room, 28,000-year-old cave paintings in the very north of Australia. I'll come back to that. And a Renaissance book with engravings, the engravings were made obviously in order to print the book, and with accompanying poems, all eroticism cloaked in some kind of classical, mythology and things like this. Very interesting, but which shows it's got a very long history. But then again, why wouldn't it? Humans have got a long history, and I'm pretty sure humans have always been interested. However, what I would say is the Aboriginal artwork was mixed in with other, activities that were important to the human beings who were living there. Hunting, for instance. So to me, I was like, well, I don't really think actually that's pornography, because it's just more, it could just be depicting life. It's an important part of life. We wouldn't be here without sex. So anyway, that's if you want to get into some really interesting topics, join us for History After Dark, and that's always at 8:15 on a Wednesday night. So I know a few of you join, and it's about lunchtime, and you have to put your earplugs in and sit and pretend to work while we're discussing things like murders, the history of porn. What else have we done? Toilets. When I spoke to you a while ago about the Bordaloos, which should have a French accent on there, where how I say it sounds like it's a toilet on a border, but Bordaloo looks like a gravy boat. Anyway, we've done that discussion before. It's all very fun. But like I say, we've got these rooms. They're on at a set time each week, so please just come and join us. If you want to come onto Clubhouse and you're not on already, have a look on my Instagram, on my bio, and follow the link there, and you will find a link to join Clubhouse. So thank you everyone who's been joining us afresh while we've been talking. So this is Thursday Tea Time Live, where I just meander through some history chat, and you're quite welcome to pop a comment in and say hi, and I don't know, drop me a topic in as well if you want me to discuss it. Ali has been suggesting for Clubhouse, and in fact, Ali, your suggestions from last week as well are now in to schedule rooms for, so thank you for those. And Ali's just mentioned Mary Queen of Scots and Elizabeth I. I have to say, Mary Queen of Scots is such a... whenever we talk about Mary Queen of Scots, we could just talk for hours and hours about her. Her life was incredibly interesting, and then and tragic and eventful, and when you then put into the mix that she was contemporary and her life intertwined with that of Elizabeth I, it just is, like I say, we could just talk for hours and hours and hours. And this links actually quite nicely, segue into where I was last Friday. Now, every Friday I'm trying to get out and about. For reasons of security, I don't tell you beforehand where I'm going, but I can always tell you in retrospect. So last Friday, I was at Tutbury Castle, and this is where I mentioned Leslie Smith. Leslie Smith is the curator at Tutbury Castle, and Tutbury, it comes under a county called Staffordshire, but anyway, I won't go into how our counties are oddly shaped, but it's more in the East Midlands, so around your Derby Burton area, and it's around about as far away from the sea as you could possibly get. It's not the exact spot, that's just down the road, but it's basically as far away from the sea as you could possibly get in any of in England, hence why it was one of the reasons it was chosen as a prison for Mary Queen of Scots. And she was held there on 4 occasions, and it is at Tutbury where finally they said to her, or it became clear to her, I think she probably stated to her, you are no longer sort of a guest of the Queen, you are now her captive, you are a prisoner. And when she first went to Tutbury, she was in the royal apartments there. It's an incredibly significant castle, Tutbury. Less well known because Cromwell did a really good job on it. This is Oliver Cromwell, and it was ruined. And then over time, obviously, once the castles were ruined, if they were then not inhabited or used for anything else, they then went into further decline, decay. The materials there would be used for other buildings, etc. So it was the starting point for a lot of decline. But anyway, so Tutbury Castle, 4 times Mary Queen of Scots was held there. Initially held in the royal apartments, but Mary did things that look like they were unwise. And this might be because, there's probably lots of reasons. One, most of us would probably just put our head down, accept, try not to make any situations worse. And also we're looking at it in retrospect, so we know what eventually happened. But Mary would do things like give alms to the poor in Tutbury. This was the monarch's job. This was this was something the monarch would do. She wasn't the Queen of England. She was the captured, deposed Queen of Scotland. She had a throne set up in the throne room, or sort of the equivalent of a great hall at Tutbury. So she did things that sound like they were just poking the hornet's nest, really. And eventually she wasn't kept in the royal apartments anymore. She was moved to buildings along the side, along the curtain wall, of the castle. These were cold, they were damp. There's records of, I think it might be a letter from her saying that they are cleaning the mould off the furniture every day. She was next to the cesspit. She, the idea being to break her will. Elizabeth might not wanted to have killed Mary, but that's not to say she didn't want her dead. And so her living conditions were horrendous. Her priest was so I've just seen somebody send me a message to change something on one of my videos. Her priest was hung outside her window. Really, really horrendous things. My personal view, Ali, although I would love to go into this in much more detail with other people who might have different opinions, is that Elizabeth didn't meet Mary, assuming that she actually didn't, and it's not that we haven't discovered that they actually did. I think she didn't meet Mary because she didn't want to humanise her. Do you know what I mean by that? So she didn't want her to be human. It's much easier to deal with a problem, even if that's a person, if you can dehumanise them, if you can keep them at arm's length, if you can make them a more abstract thing than a real life person. There's other reasons as well, possibly. Was she going to be more beautiful than her? Was she going to be taller? They were both tall women. So it's an interesting one, and we'll do that one on Clubhouse. I think that would be really, really interesting. So my visit to Tutbury last week, it was raining for quite a lot of it. I took some photographs again. If you have a look on Instagram, they're on there. And if you've ever seen a picture of Tutbury, there's the gatehouse. There are 2 surviving buildings. They're joined, but you can see how they're separate. There's another ruin. There's the curtain wall and various towers, and then there's a folly on the motte. So this was a motte and bailey castle originally after the Norman conquest, but probably on the site of a previous Roman settlement, and the Romans probably settled there, but it had already been used as well in the Iron Age, and so for a very, very long time, the place where Tutbury Castle had been used by humans, and yet so you've got the motte, sorry, and the bailey. The motte would be where the keep would be. It's the highest point, and none of the keep survives. So I can't remember who Leslie said owned the castle at the time, but they had a folly built at the top. So it looks like there's another ruined tower, but it is false. It's a folly. Thank you everyone who's joining. Welcome. So we're 40 minutes in, or if you were on YouTube, probably 20 minutes into actually being able to hear me. I'm ever so sorry about that. Me and my sound issues again. So keep an eye out tomorrow on my Instagram, because I am off on my travels again. Like I say, I keep it on the down low as to where I'm going until after I come back for obvious safety reasons. But you'll like this one, I think. I'm actually doing it for a virtual tour for Cassidy Cash, who is a Shakespeare blogger. You can check her out at CassidyCash.com, and she has a membership group. So I occasionally, because she's over in America, I go to a location for her that's mentioned in either a Shakespeare play or something to do with Shakespeare himself, and or a character out of a play, and I go and do a bit of investigation and do a little bit of a virtual tour. So I'm doing one of those tomorrow, so keep an eye out, and I will share with you where I am tomorrow. And then over the next few weeks as well, I've got so much stuff that I want to try and get in. Exhibitions have begun to open up now again, which is really exciting. We've got Glory and Gold at Hampton Court Palace. Last year was the anniversary of the Field of Cloth of Gold. Would have been a 500 year anniversary, but of course that couldn't go ahead. And all the work that is put into these events. And of course, the anniversary went by, and we couldn't do they couldn't do the events. So they have put on this year still an exhibition about the Field of Cloth of Gold called Glory and Gold, and it's on, I think, till that's my stomach kind of sorry. Until, is it the start of September or mid-August? I can't remember. Either way, I need to get there ASAP. So I'll be going there in the next few weeks. I'll let you know about that. Where's the other place? Oh, there's loads of places I want to go to. British Museum have got some really interesting exhibitions on as well. They've got one on Thomas Becket, St Thomas Becket, who was, of course, murdered on the altar steps at Canterbury Cathedral. And they've got one on Nero, which is obviously the Roman emperor. But I'm still going to try and get to that, because I love Roman history as well. And of course, it is inextricably linked to British history, with having them occupy here for around 350 years. We still have Roman remains. Lots. I mean, there's ones that are obvious that we know about. Your Roman baths. A lot of what's above ground is Victorian, but we have that. But there's a few places as well. Obviously, Hadrian's Wall up north, and nearer to me, Wroxeter, which was the fourth largest city in Roman Britain. And I think about this because of the way we're a small island. We're always building. If any of you have come over here or you live here, always building. If you go into London, you won't get a photograph of a skyline without cranes in it, because someone's always building. And part of me worries because there's a finite amount of space. However, then I think about some of the places that are now in the middle of nowhere, as in there's countryside to be seen, all around. Places like Roxeter that are now not populated. They're on the top of a hill, and you can see, fields and forests for as far as the eye can see. And we change the landscape around us from how we're living, how society is set up. I spoke a little bit about this the other week when I was talking about my interview with Katie Wignall, who's written a book called Abandoned London, and the images in there's 200 images of London, places in London that have been abandoned, hence the name of the book, and it's one of the stories that it tells overall. Each individual place has a story, but overall is how humans impact on our landscape and how it changes. So, especially in the terms of if you think about abandoned places, these were places that were used, they were busy, they were important, and then they're not used anymore because for some reason they've fell out of use or favour or whatever. Anyway, I'm not quite sure how I got onto that. Romans, wasn't it? And and exhibitions. So I've got a few places I'm going to be going to over the next few weeks. Like I say, Golden Glory, Ludlow I will also be visiting. I've spoken to you about Ludlow lots before with the castle where Arthur Tudor died. But I mean, that's like one of the many things that happen there that are important. Then Arthur's heart is buried in St Lawrence's Church there. And Ludlow town itself is really well known for its food, so I'm hoping to partake in some food, lots of food actually, and have a walk around, and so I might bring you some photos from around Ludlow as well. I'm starting to lose my voice. I think that's probably about it. The only other thing I was going to say, I'm starting to, basically I'm going to be taking August off, doing Thursday Tea Time Lives, for the very simple reason that I will be in a camping field without much signal. But look what I've got to take with me. I can't remember whether I've shown you this already. Now, you know what I'm like with big books. Usually they are consigned to Audible. But this is a book on Queen Anne, the final Stuart monarch. And it was under the reign of Queen Anne that things like St Paul's Cathedral were completed. The Act of Union came into being, and there's recently been the film about her and with the storyline with Sarah Churchill. And anyway, so she's a monarch that I don't know as much about. And Cat Marchant, when we were in Clubhouse the other day, mentioned about Anne. I mentioned that it was during her reign that the sort of birth of party politics happened, and she raised concerns over that. I think she's probably looking down from somewhere going, yeah, told you so, because her concerns were around, well, if one party says that this is good, the other party is only ever going to say, no, it's not, we need to do something else. And how are you ever going to get that mature, combined, common sense approach if the starting point has to be whatever he said I don't agree with, So I'm really looking forward to delving into Anne's character a bit more and learning more about her opinions on politics and her concerns over the party political system. And what's also interesting about that is we're talking 300 years ago. So if that was the birth of party politics, is this just a transitional arrangement? And where will it go next? Everything's transitional in human history, isn't it? Everything always changes. Everything always changes at the same time as there being nothing new under the sun. I also think that. Last week I mentioned that I had 2 videos coming out, one about the Globe Theatre in London, or in Southwark in fact, so south of the River Thames to the City of London, Southwark area, the Globe Theatre burning down during a performance of Henry VIII. And I've done a quick video, it's a very quick one, that's now available on YouTube, and also SOS being used. It replaced, now I might have this the wrong way around, I can't remember, CDQ or CQD, I think it's CQD actually, I think I've had it the wrong way around, which was the distress signal given out. And it was on the 1st of July, so today, so this is why this video is available today, that it was agreed that SOS would be the new international call sign for distress signal. And the Titanic, the Titanic disaster was quite soon after this adoption of SOS. And what's interesting is they used both, so it shows there was this transition period, and in that video there's a transcript which I got from Canada Dan on YouTube, which shows that they were using both, and they were using both more frantically, as well as the as events unfolded, and the radio operators were evidently getting more panicked and more frantic that no one was coming to help. So anyway, that's they're both quite short videos this week, so they're both available now. Obviously patrons have had those available for a while, so if you're interested in a British History membership, have a look on patreon.com/British History, and every Thursday for 3 weeks out of the month there is a new post, and depending on your tier depends on what level you get. But today the blog is out for everybody on Patreon, and it's about this medieval cartoon. It was on a 13th century tax record or tax roll, and it is bizarre, really. It's like the tax collectors illustrated their tax roll for the purposes of justifying some of their actions. It's very interesting, and that's available now to all of my patrons over on patreon.com/British History. It's an app as well, so you can download the app, and then you've got access to everything as well. If you join, I think if you join any tier, you also get the back catalogue of whatever your tier is has had access to. You'll see there's a few. It begins in the upper class, then you've got nobility, royalty, and top level is the monarchy. If you want some sort of one-on-ones with me, then you go to the monarchy level. But I think that's about all I had to mention today, other than I'm about to start a new hobby with an old twist, and if I had more time, maybe I should have asked you at the beginning what you thought my hobby. In fact, no, I'm going to keep it till next week. I'm not going to tell you until next week. You can put in the comments what you think my new hobby might be. It's a new hobby for me. It's a skill, but it's got a history twist on it. I'm going to let you mull on it. Put in the comments what you think it might be, and I will tell you next week. I won't spoil the surprise for now. Okay, thank you ever so much for joining me, everybody. Thank you for putting up with my technical issues. Oh, goodness me. One day I'll get it all sorted out. But until then, check out my Instagram. Keep an eye on it for where I am tomorrow. And if you're on Clubhouse, please come find me at Philippa B and join us on our regular rooms. If you are on my newsletter list, then each Sunday I send out a newsletter with a link to all the different videos I've done, a bit of an update as to what I've been up to, and on the bottom of that is the Clubhouse schedule. So you'll see on there our regular room times. And next week as well, I might chat to you about tours, not in a salesy way. I'm not like that, but just in case, just to let you know what sort of thing we do. Obviously this year, zilch, nada. Last year, nada. Nothing to do with me, something to do with COVID. And unfortunately, they have had to be scrapped for the rest of this year as well. Just with the uncertainty continuing about how many people we can get together and where they can come from. It's very, very sad, I have to say. But I have some really exciting things in the pipeline for 2022, so I'm really looking forward to that. So I'll just let you know a little bit more about that next week as well, just out of interest. Not for salesy purposes, just because there might be some ideas in there as well for things you might want to do. So for now anyway, thank you for joining me, everybody, and I will see you all next week here, or in the meantime on Clubhouse or Instagram. All right, everybody, see you soon. Take care. Bye, everyone.